Hey guys, it's been about 2 years since my last video. A couple months ago, I decided to dive into game development. My first step was learning C++ in Unreal Engine, and after a few courses, I decided to start my own game, and since then, I've made pretty good progress on my journey as a game developer. So in this devlog, I want to give you an update of the current state of the game and walk you through some of the systems I've been working on. One of the tools keeping this project together is version control. Every feature I add gets its own commit, so I can always go back if something breaks, all the way from the first movement prototypes to the combat system I'm working on now. This is the main character I've been working on, Tyro. He's currently rigged using just the basic UE5 mannequin rig, and the textures are just the base colors at the moment, which I'll still need to refine. But until recently, I didn't know that you were able to actually animate inside of Unreal Engine. So all the animations are done inside Unreal Engine, and this has sped up the workflow a lot. My workflow for animating is actually very simple, but to start off, I'll show you how I actually rigged Tyro. I use this add-on in Blender to get the UE5 mannequin rig and weight paint Tyro with it. This makes it so that exporting this model as an FBX will be compatible inside of Unreal Engine. Now, once I got the rig from Blender, I'm able to actually control the rig inside of Unreal Engine using the animation mode. Inside of this mode, you can move the controls however you want, and you're able to actually run these level sequences to create animation frames. Now, the benefit of using Unreal Engine to do the animation is it makes the workflow very streamlined, and it saves me a lot of time having to do the animation inside of Blender, exporting it and making sure it's compatible with Unreal Engine. So there's a lot of steps that I cut off just by doing the animations inside of Unreal Engine. Before I start talking about the systems that I've been working on, you might be asking, what game am I actually making? Well, I decided to make a platformer in the metroidvania genre, so it will be heavily inspired by Hollow Knight with, of course, my own game mechanics. The first system I worked on was the camera, because a platformer can't be a good platformer without a good camera system. So I implemented a camera class inside C++ to implement a more dynamic system. The camera follows Tyro using interpolations, which essentially smooths out the camera movement. How it works is it takes the current character location and interpolates it with a vector offset. A lot of metroidvania games also have a camera lock system, so I added a volume box to control the camera lock. This allows me to dynamically enable and disable the camera lock function, which makes a good system when some areas may want to have the camera locked and some doesn't. The way this works is very simple. Since the game is a platformer, Tyro can't move on the y-axis. Locking the camera just locks the camera height in the z-axis. So if the lock camera is enabled, then the camera just has a fixed z value, whereas an unlocked camera gets Tyro's current location and adds an offset to the z-axis, which can also be set with the volume box. Movement has also been a very big focus of mine because I want the player to have as much control as possible to allow for the player to make quick decisions and react to abilities without the feeling of getting slowed down by the movement system. So right now, Tyro has a very fast acceleration, so he can get to his max velocity very quickly. And I didn't want to get rid of the acceleration completely because I wanted to add a bit more weight to the movement. And like with a lot of these platformers, there is this charge jump feature. So the longer you hold down the jump button, the higher the character jumps. So I also decided to implement this feature into my game. It took me some time to get my head around this feature, but essentially when the jump button is pressed, it launches the player with a minimum strength, but depending how long the button is pressed, it will use the time held to determine a strength value between the clamped minimum and maximum strength. Then this float value gets used as the final jump strength. And of course, I had to add a wall jump and wall slide mechanic. This was a very tedious system to work on because I had to figure out a way to add line tracing. And essentially, it uses the line trace to detect a wall. And this result can be used to set a boolean to start a jump, a wall jump, and a wall slide. And as you can see, I created this very simple wall jump and wall slide animations inside of Unreal Engine. There is one feature that I've been playing around with, and that's a teleport mechanic. And what this feature is going to allow the player to do is to teleport back to a previous location. And in this case, I've set it so that before dashing, it sets the current cast location as a variable to teleport back to, because in the future I want to implement a rewind mechanic that allows the player to essentially rewind back the time. Another system I've been working on is a combo system, so I created these 3 attack animations to test this mechanic. It uses an array list to add a new animation montage and will increment through this list to play each of the animations. It has a built-in timer which essentially determines a combo succession. If an animation is triggered within this time, then it will always move on to the next animation until the combo is finished. I also wanted to make sure that Tyro can attack while moving, so I blended the attack animation to mask the legs and allow for the running animation to still play. Now, to tie the combo system with a combat system, I've created a health component which the character or the enemies can inherit. This component contains a function that can apply damage, which I tested by creating an enemy class. As you can see, this enemy class has an attack state machine. This state machine is actually created in C++. The attacks is chosen depending on the enemy's distance from Tyro. So the enemy will always dash towards Tyro if the distance is greater than 200 units. Otherwise, the enemy will choose randomly between 2 attacks, the slash and slam attack. Now, in terms of the art direction, I haven't yet finalized the art direction for the game, but to help me visualize the atmosphere I want the game to have, I quickly made this level. I started working on an interaction interface and skill tree system, which hopefully I can share in the next devlog. With that, this has been my progress for the last month, but moving forward, I want to make more of these devlogs to share my journey as a game developer. Thank you for making it to the end of the video, and hopefully I'll see you in the next devlog.